Today, we're going to talk about a massive shift in how we learn. And believe it or not, this whole story kicks off not in some fancy classroom, but with a single, simple question I happened to ask an AI. A question that, kind of by accident, ended up creating a whole curriculum for me.
It all started right here. Just a passing thought. Why is it that someone in France speaks French, but you cross a border into Spain and boom, it's Spanish? It seemed so obvious on the surface, but when you really think about the why, it's surprisingly deep. So I just threw the question at an AI.
And that is when things got really interesting. The first answer didn't just satisfy my curiosity, it blew the doors open to a dozen more questions. Suddenly, I wasn't just asking about borders. We were diving into the Roman Empire, the way Latin splintered into different languages, and even what language Jesus and Pontius Pilate would have spoken to each other. One little spark of curiosity just set off this incredible intellectual bonfire.
But the real aha moment wasn't about ancient Rome. It was the process. It was realizing that this entire experience showed me a powerful, completely new way of learning. A model that basically flips the traditional classroom completely on its head.
So let's break that down. Let's look at this shift from the system we all grew up with to this new one that's driven entirely by our own questions. We've all been there, right? The old model. A teacher stands at the front of the room, gives you information, you scribble it down, and maybe, just maybe, a question pops into your head later on. But this new model? It starts with the question. Curiosity isn't something that happens at the end if you're lucky. It's the engine. It's what gets the whole thing started. You follow a thread, you explore, and that is how you actually build real, lasting understanding.
And this is where AI's role gets really cool. It stops being just an answer machine and becomes more of a learning partner. It remembers what you've already talked about, it adapts to what you're interested in, and it gives your curiosity momentum. It actually helps you ask better questions, turning learning from a lecture into a real dynamic conversation.
Now, I want to be clear, this isn't some abstract theory about the future. This is happening right now. Students are already way ahead of the curve here, and they're adopting these tools way faster than their own schools can even keep up. And this creates this really fascinating tension in education today. You look at the surveys, and what you see is that most college students feel like they get AI better than their professors do. A lot of instructors are still pretty wary, they're focused on cheating. Meanwhile, the administrators are often pretty optimistic. What this gap really means is that students are out there on their own, pioneering completely new ways to learn. So what does that actually look like day to day? Well, they're using AI as a personal tutor that can give them instant feedback on their work. They're using it as a study coach that asks them tough questions to make sure they really get it. They're even using it to simulate debates or practice explaining complicated ideas out loud. It's basically self-directed, personalized education, totally on demand. This creates an incredibly powerful learning loop. Think about it. A student can upload their own class notes, get a perfect step-by-step breakdown of a problem they're stuck on, and then, and this is the amazing part, have the AI generate a custom quiz based on their own notes. They are literally building their own personalized courses as they go. And this isn't just for studying alone in your room. That same AI can be the starting point for amazing collaboration. A group of students can prompt an AI for project ideas, then get together to critique what it comes up with, and then build on it as a team. Okay, so this all leads to a really big question, right? If students can do all of this on their own, then what happens to the teacher? Well, the answer is that their role actually becomes more critical than ever. This quote absolutely nails it. The professor isn't being replaced by the technology, they're being freed by it. They're freed from just reciting facts and information, and they're freed up to do the things that only a human can do. So the teacher evolves. They become a curator, a guide. Their job is to pose that big central question, to challenge the findings a student got with their AI assistant, and to connect the dots between all the different unique paths their students are on. They become the manager of the classroom's entire intellectual ecosystem. In a model like this, every single student is forging their own unique path, but they're all orbiting the same core idea that the teacher put at the center. The goal isn't just to memorize a bunch of facts for a test anymore. The goal is to actively explore a topic from every single angle you can think of. And when you shift the method like this, you ultimately shift the outcome. This is about building better thinkers, not just building better test takers.
When you empower students to actually follow their own curiosity, they learn the skills that really matter: how to chase down a question, how to find connections between totally different subjects, how to synthesize all that information and build a truly original argument. They're learning how to think because, for maybe the first time, they have the freedom to actually do it. Of course, let's be realistic. This isn't some perfect utopia. Not yet, anyway. There are huge challenges we still have to figure out. Like, how do you grade someone's work in this world? How do we make sure students are using AI to think deeper, not just to outsource their thinking? These are the really tough, practical problems that schools are trying to solve as we speak. But what's becoming crystal clear is that the whole philosophy of education is changing right under our feet. We're moving toward a world where we value the process of discovery just as much as, if not more than, the final answer. The journey itself is becoming the lesson. And it all comes back to those three simple words. The most powerful engine for learning isn't a syllabus. It's not a textbook. It's that little spark of curiosity. So the question isn't really if AI is coming to education. It's already here. The real question is, what are we going to wonder about next?